Hi, everybody. Ron Motta, your host. Activate Worcester, thank you for sharing some of your time with us. And the us tonight is obviously myself, along with Chris Pinto, who co-produces the show. And Chris has a few things he would like to vent his spleen on, if I'm saying it properly. But before we get into that, I just thought we would take a moment and recognize the passing of a fellow who's been on this station for a long, long time with Gary Rosen, and it's Gary
12 years.
Vecchio. 12 years, exactly
12
right.
years with Gary.
And unfortunately,
And he
Gary...
was on the radio with Gary
both,
before that, too.
That's right, that's right. The Gary and Gary show, or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
Something like that.
on the radio, yeah. Two of them,
And,
Gary and Gary.
Unfortunately, Gary Vecchio passed unexpectedly on Monday, the 18th, which also happens to have been my birthday, so that was kind of a real downer to find out. But he was a hell of a good guy, meant a lot to this city, and was very sincere about what he believed. And his passing is pretty significant. So his services are tomorrow, and I'm planning to at least attend the wake. So that's where it's at. May he rest in peace. A good guy. A good guy.
And he went and passed on Ron's 78th birthday.
Thank you for...
Ron's 78th birthday.
Thank you. Ron's, which birthday again?
78.
78.
78.
Yeah.
I'm a youngster compared to you, old man. Listen, he only lived to 68, which is too young for a guy to die. And I immediately, upon reading his obituary, it seemed that he wasn't married. Now, the common wisdom out there is that married men live longer.
Mm-hmm.
But is it you're living longer because you're staying around in hell longer, or is it better to die young and be single, or live longer and be married? That's the real mystery of life.
Well, once it's all over and we look back in retrospect, if we can, that's when we'll know.
We're going to have to compare notes when we see Gary again in the great beyond.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you know, with this show, we get into a lot of different subjects. One of them has been sports, and I'm not going to waste any time tonight. We have more important things to talk about there. But speaking of RIPs, RIP the Red Sox. They've gone from being below mediocre to being fabulous in the month of June. They were like the number 1 or number 2 team in the entire league. And since then, they met the American League East, and they've been getting beat like a drum. They're just not losing.
It's okay. I was listening to the radio today, and the analysis was, one of the callers in gave a great analysis, and he talked about all the different plays that they're paying and not paying. And, a guy who was hosting the show said, I agree with everything he said. And in summary, they won the World Series in 2018 with a bunch of young guys, and then they didn't want to pay any of them. They didn't want to keep anyone around. They didn't want to pay any bats. They went and spent a ton of money on Chris Sales. They got nobody else in the bullpen. They don't have any power hitters. Hey, it's what happens.
They have a formula that's worked, and they think it's going to work again.
You gotta spend money to make money. You gotta spend money to win championships. I'm not a big fan of baseball at all, but I do listen to sports radio, so I can hear some of the analysis. But enough with that. The play-by-play on tonight was, Ron called me last minute. Said, my guest doesn't have a cam in his PC at home, so we can't do the show over Zoom. Oh, you got to do the show with me. First thing I thought of, I remember doing a show with Ron one time, and I ran into Connie Lukes, and she goes, oh my God, I was laughing so hard, I was watching your show, and you're tearing into your co-host there, Ron. Ron, you're making fun of me because I didn't shave. And you know what? You gave me last minute's notice. I'm at work, unshaved. I don't have to deal with anybody shaved. And now you're giving me a hard time for not being shaved. Because I fill in for him at the last minute. So today, remembering
Mr. Clean.
Remembering what he said to me, I shaved for him.
I can see
I had a little time and I shaved for him.
I sincerely appreciate it.
And after all of these years of being in the booth, having to listen to you all the time, I think I got some stuff to say tonight.
You're out of the closet.
And there's no interrupting me like you do the usual guests.
I'm more than happy to just sit back and enjoy and
Okay.
go for it. What do you have to talk about tonight?
I don't know. You want to talk about the Bruin decision? You want to talk about guns? You want to talk about what a disgrace Charlie Baker is?
No,
What a
irrelevant.
evil, cheating scumbag Maura Healey is? How happy I was at the end of Pride Month?
All of those are interesting topics.
All right.
But since your greatest strength
No,
is
that's not
guns,
true.
well, that we can
not
talk about on camera,
I
is
No, I
guns.
had some
and-
friends ask me to step up for a while in that realm. It's not clearly not my greatest strength.
I think that it's right
I'm
up
an
there.
engineer.
Yep.
I mentor other engineers. I architect software.
But that's not the fun stuff. The fun stuff
No, that's
is,
fun. That's why I do
well,
it.
okay. But the guns are your
Find a job you love to do, and you'll
you
never work a day
again.
in your life.
I know, I've heard that.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're a happy man then.
I am.
Tell me what's going on in the gun world.
So-
Tell me what's going on with the legislative things that are being impacted or enacted or trying to be enacted. And
Okay. So
what
first
do
of
you see
all,
happening?
I want to put in a big plug here for someone who's much more knowledgeable about this than I am. A friend of mine who's a retired police officer. His name is Jared Yanis. He's been on the show.
Been on the
once.
show, yeah.
We should get him back sometime. When he was on the show, I think he probably had about, I don't know, 60,000 followers on YouTube.
That's about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it might have been, maybe it was closer to 100. It was somewhere between 60 and 100,000 followers. He just hit the 500,000 mark the other day.
Wow.
Okay? He's retired from the police force. He was many years a police officer in New Orleans, and then for a little while, I think in his hometown of Douglas, and then he did work training stuff for security. I think he helped out at Union Station for a while, and then he returned to work with another police department in Massachusetts, and then he's retired from that. And he does a channel called Guns and Gadgets. With all that's going on, he's doing about 3 videos a day on his channel.
Wow.
So it's amazing the stuff that he knows. So I won't go into the wonky details, but I didn't read the decision. For me to learn about the decision when it happened, I got an alert. Actually, the day it happened, I was on a fishing boat in Cape Cod, not in the bay, outside Race Point, left from inside Providence Harbor, went outside Race Point, and we caught our limit of stripers, 6 of them,
Nice.
6 people on the boat. And then from that on, we did catch and release. We caught another 30 or 40 fish and released them.
Wow.
It was a great day.
Regardless of size.
Well, no. When you keep, they have to be in a certain size range.
Understood.
But if a little baby one wants to get on your line, you can't stop it. So you get it to the boat, you look at the size of it, you go, too small, you release it.
But let's say
There's also a too big.
that's.
There's a range that they're allowed in, stripers. I forget the number.
I guess my question is, if you've caught your limit, let's say of 6, and that's done, and now you get a big boy that jumps on.
You have to
can't
release
keep
them.
it. You have to release it.
Because when you put those fish in a cooler, they die
They
pretty
die.
quick.
Okay.
So you don't release dead fish. You release live fish. So at that point, it's just for fun, and you're feeding them. Because you go out there and you jig for live bait. You get mackerel and herring, and you catch a bunch of those, and then you fish with those. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Go every year.
All natural.
Yeah.
Giving back.
Giving back to the climate. So the Bruin decision actually happened when I was out fishing. And we got back from fishing. We made fish tacos with fresh fish, hung around. Then my brother wrangled me into doing a bunch of electrical work at his house down the Cape. So by the time I'm leaving there, it's 5 at night. I didn't even know about the Bruin decision until I went back to work the next day on Friday. I was like, oh my God. I got there early in the morning. I'm like, what happened yesterday?
Yep.
This is awesome. And then a couple hours later, the Roe v. Wade decision came, where they pushed abortion back to the states. And I thought, oh my God, what a wonderful way to end Pride Month. I am so proud of the Supreme Court. Because the Roe v. Wade decision made many years ago was a political one. It wasn't based in law. It wasn't based in science.
Absolutely.
There was a big debate over it going on, and they said, all right, here, we're going to have a compromise. First 3 months, the sickos that like to kill things with beating hearts and call them clumps of cells get their way. Okay? The last 3 months is off limits. People are against it. And then the stuff in the middle is going to be like up to a doctor. It's going to be. And the left has always said abortion should be rare. And that's so not true. And they claim that there's these people that are raped and stuff. And they have babies from being raped. And the incidence of that is minuscule. Minuscule.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%, maybe even, less than 1%, a fraction of 1%.
But they
I think
take
it's a better
it and
way to
beat
say
the
it.
drum with it to say, well, rather than that being
And
being
President
atypical,
Biden was
it's
making up
typical.
this
It's
now,
not-
if you see the chyron for my name there, the lower third, it says fan of revolver.news. And I'm a big fan because
It's right up
it
there
has
now.
a lot of good information. Like the White House made up this 10-year-old who couldn't get an abortion in Ohio where she lived, and she was raped and all this stuff. And the people in Ohio said that's not true. It's not true. We make exceptions for these sort of things, and plus any changes from Roe v. Wade never happened. So they make up lies all the time. If you repeat them enough, a big lie.
And they
more
forgot the
becomes
big
truth.
microphone,
And,
which
and that was
obviously
Joseph
is true.
Goebbels from
Yep.
Hitler's
Little Joey.
days.
Yep. Nice guy.
Good old Joseph Goebbels.
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 Yeah,
I said thank you.
Yeah. Goebbels.
Joseph Goebbels.
Yeah.
So the left has been lying for the last 50 years. They're going to flip out now. Their heads are going to explode. And thank you. I hope your heads explode and you die. And we don't have to deal with your immoral behavior anymore and your immoral thinkings. Just let's get it over with now, because when you die and you're judged by the Creator, you're going to be judged for believing that it's okay to kill something with a beating heart that's a human. The covenant of the rainbow was when the 40 days and 40 nights of rain stopped and the sun came out and there was rainbows, and God spoke to Noah and his sons, who had done his work preserving all these animals. And before that, man was not supposed to eat flesh. And he told Noah and his sons, and then it's part of the Bible called the covenant of the rainbow. When you hear the thunder and you see the lightning, you should be reminded of me. And I give unto you all the creatures on the earth, all the birds in the sky, all the things in the sea, for there'll be food for you. So killing animals, a lot of people get more upset that you might shoot a bear or shoot a deer than if you exterminate a human life. And
Absolutely true.
and God told Noah and his sons, you should not ever eat anything that still has lifeblood in it. Don't be a cannibal. Don't eat anything alive. And you should never spill the blood of another man without cause. Okay? So when you exterminate an unborn child, what's the cause? What did that child do to you to deserve to be killed?
The premise is that it's not a child, it's a
Clump of
It's
cells.
a clump of
Well, that's all Ruth Bader Ginsburg was herself. She was just a clump of cells. Why was everyone upset when she died? The interesting part of all that is if you read revolver.news and you follow news sites that want to get the facts out to you, there's a video out there that they've posted more than once over the last few months of Ruth Bader Ginsburg in an interview saying Roe v. Wade went too far. She never expected it to last because it took too many liberties. And it was not written well, and it wasn't written right. And she fully expected that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. She didn't believe in the law herself, though she was a
pro-choice.
She was pro-baby killer. Not choice.
Oh.
Choice is, was I going to get orange juice like Frank's having tonight, or was I going to get water? That's a choice. Okay? Am I going to watch Netflix tonight, or am I going to tune
Prime.
into those lousy Red Sox?
There you go.
Those are choices.
One thing the left has always been quite good at doing is coming up with proper wording to kind of sand the edges down a bit. One that I've always been
Yes,
intrigued
yes,
by-
and one of the worst on that subject is
Yeah,
reproductive health care. That's what they call abortion. Women must have access to reproductive health care. Wait, you're terminating a life, so how is that reproductive? It's not reproductive at all.
I get it.
It's destructive.
I get it. I know that a number of years ago, I used to do business in Westchester, New York, with a couple Planned Parenthood places.
Ugh.
And the more I got into it in terms of what they actually did, this was their business. Their business was abortion.
Yeah, and the what's that? The James O'Keefe's organization is called.
Oh, yeah, boy,
Yeah,
you had to mention
it's
it.
the word that's in Harvard's motto. It's about truth. Veritas.
That's it.
Veritas is the Latin word for
Yeah,
truth.
For truth.
That's in the motto of when you walk into Harvard Yard, it's engraved over the doorway as you walk into the yard. Project Veritas exposed them big time that they are barbaric. They take a live baby inside of you and they rip it apart and they sell the parts for a profit. Planned Parenthood is a for-profit, immoral organization that puts like nice words around everything, and it gets everybody to cooperate with them. And the other part is, the majority, the vast majority of abortion clinics are in minority neighborhoods.
Absolutely true.
Because, hey, you can't have those minorities, reproducing too much. Just hey, an easy way out, have an abortion. And the founder,
Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger, thank you, of NARAL, which what later became Planned Parenthood. She was a eugenicist who believed in getting rid of the weeds of society, the handicapped, the underprivileged, and the minorities. She really had speeches where she came right out and said, we should get rid of the blacks and Hispanics, the weeds of society. It's an awful, awful thing. And there are evil people behind it. And you tell any liberal these stories, and they're, oh, it's just not true. And they've done a pretty good job of scrubbing most of that information from the internet. But the facts remain, whether you scrub them from the internet or not.
It is what
It's
it
well
is.
documented history. Adolf Hitler was a big fan of hers. And before the start of World War II, he actually came here to see her give a speech.
Well, don't forget, a co-conspirator of Margaret Sanger was one Woodrow Wilson, who was a president of this country, as you guys know, and he was really big into this whole movement as well.
Of cleansing
Absolutely.
cleansing America of the weeds, the
Absolutely.
dregs, and
Absolutely.
the unwanted.
Absolutely. So for her to be perceived as the patron saint is just mind-boggling to me. It really and truly is.
Well, let's consider the fact that Satan himself was an angel, but he was the dark angel, right? He was the fallen angel. So yes, you could call Margaret Sanger a patron saint, but she's a patron saint along the lines of Lucifer himself. Okay?
Yep.
She's a fallen angel. But that is what it is. That's fine. And, we're cranking through time already, so.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a major, major subject. It's very, very painful. Back to the young lady. If, in fact, she really does exist. It's interesting how that story it was like clickbait. It took off like a shot, and not the least of which, the very sensitive president that we had. Come on, man, et cetera, et cetera. What a horrible thing, and so forth. Basically, to try to push the peanut forward with the whole, Roe v. Wade thing. And the thing that I find, and I've been away, as you know, for several days, and I've a little bit out of touch with the most recent developments, but that was page one, okay? Then all of a sudden, when it looked like, well, maybe this whole thing was sort of like an Adam Schiff deal where it was kind of put together to make a point, they even came up with some guy, or Gustav, whatever the hell the guy's last name was, and then supposedly he was an illegal alien or whatever the deal was.
No.
And I have no idea
No,
what
they
the
never
latest
said the
on
word
is.
illegal. They said undocumented.
It's undocumented.
There's no such
Shucks.
thing as illegal.
That's right.
But they will then come and say, let's segue to what we wanted to be on. They will say that there was illegal guns. There's no such thing as illegal guns. That's a fact in law. Okay? There's no such thing as an illegal gun. There are people who are federally prohibited from possessing guns.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make the gun illegal. It makes the act of someone who's federally prohibited
Accessing it is,
possessing it and holding on to it illegal. Now, in this room right now, we've got
what
a
is
lawful gun owner who's properly licensed. Right here, we have someone that's properly licensed. That gun is not illegal. That gun is not dangerous. That gun is simply a tool. That's all it is a tool. It's a tool which I can use to defend myself.
like a knife or
But in Massachusetts, my rights, I have to pay money to get my rights. I am not federally prohibited. But every 6 years, I have to prove again that I'm allowed to have a gun. So the decision from Brewer was, and in Massachusetts and in Worcester, you have to have letters of recommendation. You have to prove that you are a suitable individual. In New York, the Bruin case said someone has to prove a need. The Bruin decision said, no, you don't. It's a right, you possess it. Nobody can expect you to come up with proof that you need that right. Because with crime, you never know when someone's going to walk in this room
Yep.
and start shooting, which is what happened at the Greenwood Mall in Indiana. And a young man, 22 years old, saved many, many lives. And what does the left do? They freak out. Now here's the interesting part about that case. The left is against constitutional carry, where you say, hey, some states have constitutional carry, but they also have licensing. So if you want a license, because it might be reciprocated in another state, you get the license. Okay, now in Massachusetts, if that gun is sitting there and this guy right next to me doesn't have a license, I've broken a law. Really? But he's licensed, so I haven't broken any laws. Okay, if he wasn't, I wouldn't do that because I know the law and I follow all these silly laws because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But do you think the criminals care? Do you think a criminal saying, hey, I got this gun illegal, and if I put it where someone else, one of my other criminal buddies can access it, I'm breaking yet another law. Yeah, because what they do is they pile up all these gun offenses. Oh, you're going to get possession of ammo without a license. You're going to get possession of a loaded weapon. You're going to get possession of a weapon without an ID card, without a license to carry. You're going to get all these, and they pile them all up. And they come with a mandatory prison sentence, which has never been enforced.
That's right.
Never been enforced. So they're all freaking out because the same thing happened with guns as happened with Roe v. Wade, except inverse. In Roe v. Wade, they said Roe v. Wade doesn't count anymore. Abortion is up to the states. Okay? Because abortion was never in the Constitution. The law says anything in the Constitution is a federal issue. Anything not explicitly in the Constitution belongs to the states and the people to decide.
Absolutely.
So they said, hey, it belongs to the states. So now you have a bunch of states where there's conservatives that aren't sickos and don't believe in killing unborn, and they pushed it back to the states. So now you're going to have a bunch of states where you can't get an abortion. So what? That's the way this country was formed. The colonies were a bunch of different religions that didn't trust each other. They were escaping the Church of England.
Primarily, that's right.
Federal government telling them what church they should do and all this stuff. And they came over here to get away from all of that and to form their own communities and do their own thing. And I think the Puritans were in Massachusetts, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Quakers down in Pennsylvania, Amish different places. So if you were of a particular religion, or if you were growing up a Puritan, you're like, I don't dig all this Puritan stuff. Not my gig, man. I'm moving to Pennsylvania where I can be a Quaker. And you go to Pennsylvania where you're a Quaker. Same thing happens with abortion. You don't like the fact that they're killing babies in Massachusetts? We're going to leave. Get away from these sickos. Go somewhere else where our taxpayer dollars aren't supporting it. And they did the same thing with Bruin. They said, it's in the Constitution that you have these rights. The states can't do this. They can't require you to prove you need this right. And they're all freaking out everywhere. There's a bunch of states that have laws on licensing and have these laws about special permits, that proof to get a permit. A lot of them are dropping, except New York. New York has doubled down and passed even more unconstitutional laws. So there's battles going to loom here. And also, Maura Healey said, well, we're going to get rid of the fact that you have to prove a need. But we're going to keep suitability. A chief of police can determine whether or not you're suitable. Wait, federal government says if you're federally prohibited, you can't have a gun. No, so you're going to have a whole new set of laws? 361 different chiefs in Massachusetts get to write their own? No, that's going to fall too. That's going to fall too. It's going to take a few more years, but it's going to be done and over with.
As well it should.
But they'll keep killing the babies here.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Now, but
we're wrapping up, buddy.
I know we're wrapping it up in about 30 seconds. What I really like is the idea that companies, the woke companies, are now going to be providing a $4,000 abortion benefit for people.
I don't shop at Dick's Sporting Goods anyways.
Unbelievable. Wow. Guys.
Cheers, buddy. Good show.
Amen. Amen. We could even do another one if you like at some point in time. I hope you enjoyed this. This is not exactly fun stuff to be talking about, but it's real. Learn about it. Get on that website that Chris talks about, Revolver. There's a lot of interesting information in there and helps you make up your own mind. But you're getting facts to deal with, not just feelings. So I toast you. Thank you very much for sharing part of your evening with us. And look forward to seeing you next week with hopefully some other provocative concepts we can kick around. Ron Motta, bidding you have a good evening and thanks again.